This life we all lead is quite a long one, and with so many moments and eras of our life that are so important to how the remainder of our days will play out, don't you think it would be helpful to know when the most important time in your life is? Hi, I'm Loda Buggy, and today we're going to take a shallow dive into multiple stages of our life to discuss which one really could be the most important. As parents, we're told that when our children are little, it's the most important time in their life because how they're raised, loved, and parented greatly determines how they will turn out as adults. Then, when we hit our teens, we're told this is your youth. It's the most important time in your life, so go explore and experience things before you have real responsibilities. Then we reach our 20s, the first heat in the race of life, if you ask me. This is when life really begins to start. You're responsible for yourself and yourself alone, unless you're like me and get hitched and have babies real young. Then your 30s arrive and you're expected to have everything figured out. The problem with this line of thinking, that only one period of your life is the most important period of your life, is that it forces us to tunnel vision into ourselves too much during that time, and we forget to just experience life, do things that make us happy, or help others who may need it along the way. But for the sake of discussion, let's analyze our lives from childhood to 30s and determine which of these really are the most important years of our life. From infancy to 12 years old, we are but kids. No responsibilities and minimal independence. The only things we're supposed to do are learn and play. We're sponges. We learn the basics of academics and general life, from colors and shapes to mathematics and literature. This is the time when we should be hyper-fixated on learning, right? Our parents are responsible for not only our physical health and wellness, but for our mental direction and development of our moral compass. This is a make-or-break time period in your life. Many parents succeed in laying a solid groundwork that will set us up as children on how to approach the world as we grow older. And then there are other parents who fall into children, maybe never really wanted them in the first place, and thus don't do a good job at setting their kids up for success down the road. They say you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but is this why childhood is so important? Is this really the only period of our life where we can be taught and molded? Well, of course not, but often it's positioned that way. I don't think it's unreasonable to say that childhood is one of the most important periods of our lives, but to say it is the most important period of our life wouldn't really be all that fair reasonable of an assessment. By the time that we reach the teenage years, roughly 14 through 19, the I know better than you, mom phase, the time in our lives where we are just beginning to find out who we are as individuals. This time period is absolutely crucial to our development as adults. Discovery of self is essential to determining what our future path will look like. As I said before, this is the stage where we are told to go out into the world and experience some things. Begin to utilize some of that new independence that we have been given. I know many of us still had a bit of a leash in those years, but often the leash started to get significantly longer than it had been in previous years. We get but a taste of true independence, but with the safety net of not quite being a full-fledged adult yet. Of course, that would change as we hit 18. At least here in the US, the age of majority, aka the age that we consider an individual to be an adult, is 18. 18 is where we no longer can use the excuse that we're just kids, but at the same time, we're often given some grace at this age because we are just entering adulthood and we still don't know any better. Of course, I'm not speaking of the law. No one is above the law, but at least with my parents and the parents I knew around me, just because we were legal adults didn't mean that we were fully on our own yet. I know some of you may not have had that same experience as me and were forced to grow up at an even earlier age, and that sure is unfortunate. We've already discussed how important childhood is, and being robbed of that experience is nothing to scoff at. This group of people who haven't had the traditional childhood to teen progression are beasts of your own, and I admire the grit and endurance many of you have. The years of teenagedom are highly important to self-discovery and truly could be the most important years of our life. Without discovery of self, we could never navigate life. But discovery of self definitely does not end once you hit your 20s. In fact, I'd argue it's just beginning. Even at 28 years old, I still discover things about myself that have altered how I have approached my life as I moved forward. My personal experience of my 20s is a bit different than the average Joe by modern standards. 30 is the new 20, though, right? Many of you out there are still finishing up university, starting your careers, and likely just entering what could be your final long-term relationship, the person you plan to or want to spend the rest of your life with. My experience is a little bit different. By 19, I met my future wife and knew that that was who I wanted to be with for the rest of my life. Thankfully, My desires were also the desires of not only my future brides, but also the good Lord above, because every single day I'm thankful He graced me with a woman who is so patient, graceful, and kind that allows me to be my true self, but gives me forgiveness and kindness when I mess up, whether I deserve it or not. Your 20s is often the tail end of your self-discovery. I say often because in many cases the discovery of self never fully ends, and that's okay. I compare our 20s to laying the foundation in construction, terraforming, leveling, the pouring of concrete, etc. The terraforming and leveling is where we start to uncover and balance what would soon become our groundwork as a human. The pouring of the concrete is where we start to cement, pun intended, who we are as a person, and thankfully, cement takes a while to dry and harden fully, so in this phase of construction and personal discovery, there's still time to make adjustments at the last minute. But the beauty of construction of buildings and ourselves is that nothing is truly permanent. We can always tear it down and start over if we need to. So here we are at our 30s. I am uniquely unqualified to speak on whether this is the most important time in our life or not, because I'm not there yet. I'm close, but not there yet. But I do know this. Your 30s is when the real fun begins. I've heard this time and time again from friends and family that this is often where many people start to settle down and find what would be their new normal for the foreseeable future. Buying a home or starting a family, this is where most people do both of those things. If my 30s are anything like my 20s have been, I know I'm in for an unpredictable and unrelenting fury of wonder and achievement. Raising children and having a spouse have been the greatest accomplishment of my life thus far. And knowing I get to continue to do exactly that in what many people consider to be the best time of their lives, then sign me up. I'm looking forward to what my 30s will bring me. Christians often throw out the phrase that the Lord will never give me more than I can handle. And whether you're a Christian or not, I believe that same logic applies to you as well. Mother Nature, the earth, whatever it is, will never give you more than you can handle. Sure, life can be tough and sometimes it seems unmanageable. But if you're still here now after all you've been through, can't you just do it again? You were strong enough and resilient enough to face the hurdles of your past, so I believe you really can do it again. So after all this discussion and this brief analyzation, when is the most important period of our life? Is it the clay-like state we are in as children, brains like sponges, pliable and ready to be shaped into who we are destined to be? Or is it our 20s, when we're in the trenches of self-discovery, fighting to find out who we are and what we want to be? I think the answer is yes to all of the above. The most important time in your life is right now, exactly where you are, right now. The great and wise Master Oogway once said, "Yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, but today is a gift." That is why they call it the present. So enjoy your present. Be better today than you were yesterday. Make the most of your time now, because it is the most important time of your life. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, click subscribe and the like button down below, as well as leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Bye now.